Well, 4 minutes to the top of the hour, that is of 8 a.m. And of course, still driving your business in here with so many conversations going on. Of course, there is quite that is happening around the world, and of course, in such very sensitive times, and having some sort of economic turmoil. There is a prediction of a recession, and of course, it's very key and very important, and it's very vital. That is for you as a business person to keep on watching. Be watchful as you implement the different decisions that you put out there, because I want you to get to understand, regardless of which country you're located, regardless of which block you're located, whatever event happens all around the world still comes back to you as a person, and definitely it will be something which can affect you either negatively or positively, depending on how you position yourself, depending on what knowledge are you possessing in that very matter. Well, all this is powered by Zabu. We just made your trading experience much more easy. Star 292 hash is the magic code, as you'll be availed with quite lots of options. You can actually choose to buy government bonds and securities with as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. The markets open at exactly 8:15 a.m. and they close at exactly 3:15 p.m. East African time. That is Monday to Friday. And of course, except on the public holidays when they don't operate, and also on the weekends when the markets are not in operation. But of course, with this time around, there is no excuses why you shouldn't own, of course, government bonds and securities. It's very key. Zabu, my money, my future, all to East Africa. Do something new. Well, at this very time, let's get into the business tips and quotes. As you know, it's very important for you to start your day with sort of when your ease pad. And of course, getting to understand that most of these tips and quotes were written by the people with emulating business for a big time, and definitely we find that it's very important that we embrace whatever they really put out there for us, because it's out of experience that they wrote this quote. It's not just head knowledge. Maybe some of us may get these quotes and use them in our daily life, but maybe at some point we've not really experienced them. But that is something quite very important. Well, let's get into our business tip of the day. Well, our business tip of the day today says that every time you state what you want or you believe, you are the first to hear it. And of course, it's a message to both you and others about what you think is possible. And of course, don't put a ceiling to yourself. That is something very important to understand and decode in that aspect. Of course, you don't put a ceiling, a limit to yourself. It's very, very important that you get to realize and understand that, as far as you can think about yourself, as far as you can really achieve, you cannot eliminate the fact that the law of manifestation definitely has to really be put into effect. And yeah, of course, matters have to be really moving on in that perspective. And now let's wind this up with the business quote of the day. Now, the business quote of the day says that to win without risk is to triumph without glory. And of course, we know that at every aspect in everything we do, and we desire to earn something from it, it's very important that we take the risk. Where you didn't put a risk, it's a little bit complex for you to make sure that you can actually make it to your expectations regarding every matter. So you have to risk something, you have to sacrifice something, that is to get something, if you are to really make it out there and triumph over every aspect of life. Okay, now at this very time, let's get into our social media trends, and of course what's really trending out there, and it's of some sort of businesses. Of course, taking a look in here, we see that this is from the government citizen interaction center, visa-free countries for Ugandan citizens in 2023. Well, that is something in there to check out and see what is transpiring. And of course, visa acquisition for the different Ugandans out there. Of course, visa-free countries for citizens. Of course, those countries where you can go without a visa as a Ugandan and you can actually be received with greatness. All right, now still seeing here at She Defender says that Africa by road, of course, highlights from Botswana. Just like us, many of you must have heard a lot about Botswana, and of course, Ugandans don't need visas to Botswana. But if driving a temporary, of course, import permit fee is required, it says that we paid a total of 390. That is per US dollars. That's about 31 to access the country. Regarding that, okay, that is what's happening regarding that very matter. Africa by road. All right, still looking in here. This is at Akosha. All right, it says fun fact: you can visit. That is 38 visa-free countries with a Canadian tourist visa, and you know what? It's much faster and easier than the US tourist visa. Of course, that all depends on the policy of the country where all that really relies on, and definitely more of that regarding tourist visas. Visit a country of your choice, you can actually travel the world, get exposed, do lots of things, something very good for your health, mental health, and so many other related. Now we're still in here. We see this is economic freedom fighters, and of course addressing the picket against Uganda's anti-homosexuality bill. We see that lots of countries in the world come to South Africa. Of course, lots of the countries in the world come to South Africa without visa. But when we say the Ugandans must come to South Africa without visa, and of course xenophobic people say no, we don't want to be there. All right, that is something that is happening in here. All right, regarding that very matter. Okay, still in here, we see in 2017 an annual trade that is a conference was held in the US without any country in attendance. All 100 African delegates were denied, that is US visas. And of course, the conference brings together US business leaders and delegations from Africa in an effort that is to build partnerships in that regard. So that is what is happening in right there. That's at Africa Fact Zone, bringing in that report, trending in some sort of a way. All right, still in here we see at Abraham Oka too. It says that the US just announced that tourist visas will now be valid for, of course, hoping 10 years. And I have been walking around the clock to get some conferences in the United States that all you can get access to, so you can get a tourist visa and also get a job to settle. That is in the United States. Of course, that's an advantage, something to really take into consideration all about. All right, and of course we see in here that visa applications are a form of torture. I don't know how true that is, but of course every person is entitled to what they believe, what they, entitled to their opinion at the end of the day, what you put out there. Now, Visa, MasterCard tell UK tribunal to block new mass actions. This is at Reuters. Of course, one of the leading companies when it comes to news distribution globally. Visa, MasterCard tell the United Kingdom tribunal to close all that. Well, that is it for the business. That is for the social media trends. And now, of course, before we get into some sort of our update number 2, let's take a look at in here something very interesting that I was going through that really got my attention. And of course, it's very interesting of what is happening all around the world when it comes to laying off of workers, quite lots of workers in so many companies, and most cases in the tech-related companies where most of these workers being laid off. Now in here we see the aspect of Walmart laying off 2,000 warehouse workers. Now, this is something very key. Now, Walmart is laying off more than that is 2,000 workers at five U.S. warehouses that fulfill website orders, and of course, weeks after America's largest private employer warned it is in for a tough year ahead. And you know what is really happening lately is about the artificial intel that is really happening in here, that is replacing most of the jobs of the different people. But then, does it mean where artificial intelligence is, there is no future when it comes to employment and related other related employment careers? Of course, there are new careers that are emerging at the end of the day, because you get to realize that lately with artificial intelligence, there are quite more. For example, in the future, people that deal with matters that do with psychology, mental health, will be quite very profitable, because I've come to realize that majority of the people, when they are building actually these artificial intelligences, they are more of basing on the psychological aspect, how the human being responds, and that is all the psychic, some sort of ability. That's why there is that word they call psychic, being able to see ahead, or being able to predict something before it actually happens, but you're predicting it basing on the previous information that happened. So as we see these tech companies laying off the workers, so many jobs, because artificial intelligence is now used in accounts, used in making reports, summaries, and so many other. It can even make you a business report in that regard. So that is something to really check it out for. Quite more opportunities that will be coming up towards the end of the age, probably 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when artificial intel of course becomes one of the leading aspects. Now, the retail giant is cutting more than 1,000 jobs, that is in Texas, and 600 jobs in Pennsylvania, now 400 in Florida and 200 in New Jersey. That is according to the work adjustment retraining notification filings which were posted. Of course, that is to the workers. And of course, the Reuters first reported last month that the job cuts were because that is of the reductions and eliminations in the evening and weekend shifts. Now 1,000 jobs in Texas, 600 jobs in Pennsylvania, and 400 jobs in 400 in Florida, and 200 in New Jersey. So when you total wrap all that, it comes back to about 2,000 workers that have lost jobs as a result of that. And there is this whole new wave that is happening. Every other day we hear that, but of course it's not really yet rampant in Africa. But why I say all this is very important for you to position yourself as any person, as an employer, as an employee. You employ somewhere, of course, getting ready to position yourself that this can actually happen to you at the same time as if it's happening to this country, to these companies, because we get to see that these are companies that have been the dream of almost every person in Uganda. Every person has desired to actually work in those countries. But uncertainty comes in the form of, in a way that is quite a little bit irresistible. And now it calls for some sort of an aggressive mind, thinking outside the box. That is to make sure that you can be very competitive. At the end of the day, how do you survive this range? Now, still in further, when I look through this report, I see that Walmart said in a statement that it recently adjusted staffing levels, that is at fulfillment centers in select markets, to better prepare, that is for the future needs of customers. And it was a decision that wasn't made lightly. And of course, it said that it's working closely with affected associates to help them understand what career options may be available at other Walmart locations. Now, definitely for those that lost their jobs, now it's this whole aspect of upgrading career as something very important, and of course learn something new anytime, because you never know what really the future holds in here. And this is what Walmart is doing for the affected associates, affected personnel, probably offering you some of the possible career options that you can actually pursue in such a time of great economic turmoil in this regard. Now, still in here, we see that, however, it's unclear whether this is just the beginning or the end of the layoffs that have been affecting many large companies. Well, Of course, we cannot tell where will be heading, but we just need to keep positive. But above all the situations is keeping, of course, be very vigilant and quite inquisitive and aggressive when it comes to understanding how the world works, what matters are really happening in there, and you can do something regarding that. Now, in the company's most recent earnings, Walmart told investors to expect that is slower sales and profit growth. It also recently announced that it will raise its average minimum wage, that is from $12 to $14 an hour. $12 to $14 an hour that you earn when you work at Walmart. Of course, as it tries to retain store workers in a tight labor market for the low-wage industries. Now, as a result, that will impact profit squeezing margins at the same time as its core low-income shoppers continue. That is to be hit by inflation, which could end, of course, kind of damage sales when it comes to this year's operations regarding that very much. Well, I just went in there as some sort of a mind opener, getting to realize what is happening in the world. If we get to see the companies that we used to look up to way back, and of course Walmart is just one of them. Quite lots of companies have been closing, and every other day, and it's very surprising that most of them actually take best companies which are really closing up. So that makes it quite a very, very, very tricky aspect. Well, 13 minutes past 8, and of course still driving the business with both local and international updates. And of course, don't forget, all this is powered by Zabu. We just made your trading experience much more easy and friendly. Star 292 hash is the magic code, as you'll be available with quite lots of options. You can buy government bonds, securities with as little as 15,000 you get in shillings. And of course, 15,000 being the minimum, you can purchase more than that. The markets open at exactly, that is 8:15 a.m. and they close at exactly 3:15 p.m. East African time, Monday to Friday, except on the weekends when the markets are not in operation. There is no excuse as why you shouldn't own government bonds. Of course, no more paperwork, no more hassle involved. At any part of the country you are, you will be able to actually buy yourself to get your own yourself bonds and shares, company stocks, at the same time as, of course, we see how really life becomes much more easy. Zabu, my money, my future, Altex East Africa, and of course, which says do something new. And of course, at this very time, let's get into our update. And of course, the discussion was regarding the rehabilitation of the Kampala Mukono railway line. Definitely the transportation in those areas, people from Kampala heading to Mukono, and of course their rehabilitation process that is ongoing as a result of this. But of course, before we go into any further discussions, let's first take a look at this report, and of course I'll be returning for more analysis.
On Friday, and we've been communicated, we made the last passenger train journey from Kampala to Namave, and the reason why that was the last, for the next 6 months, rehabilitation of the line is going to commence to happen from Kampala to Mukono. Now the intention is to extend the service to serve the people of Mukono, but also gradually we want to extend it to Lugazi and further to Jinja. So that is the reason why we suspended the passenger service. Currently we've been plying Kampala Namave, but for the next 6 months we are going to work on in the first phase we are going to work on the Kampala Namave, and then in the second phase it will be Namave Mukono. Is being undertaken by Imathia Constructions. It's a Spanish company, and that is it is within the broader capacity building program that commenced last year. Rehabilitation is very important because what we are going to construct is a more stable and comfortable line, and this has been long overdue. There is no any other way we can do the construction and also continue having passengers move on the line. So within the next 6 months, we want to do that good job, and after that, the passengers will be able to come back and enjoy the service. 6 months from Kampala to Namave, and then another 6 to 7 months, Namave to Mukono.
When are we starting?
Actually, we've started the preparations. That's why we closed the service on Friday. Right now, we are in the implementation stage.
Passenger train, it has been really effective to our community in terms of the efficiency. Mostly like the prices are really low. So it is a 1,000 to and fro. You're going to Kampala, you're coming from Namave to Kampala, you pay 1,000. You're moving from Kampala to Namave, you also pay 1,000. And with the terms of being timely and also time management, it takes you about 45 minutes from Kampala to Namave, and about 30 you'll be in Nambole. So if you're in a rush and you don't want jam, passenger train is the best option that you can take. And we ensure a lot of things. First of all, we are taking off so many taxis off the road. So averagely, every trip that we take off more than 28 taxis. Passengers that can sit in more than 28 taxis, and we take them in one route from Kampala to Namave. So, there we have created a lot of space on the roads and actually reduced on jam. And we are talking about taxis, but there are also those personal vehicles. Someone who parks somewhere and opts to use passenger train, remember, we're also reducing on the traffic on the roads. And if you reduce on the traffic, we're also saving the environment. So going forward, I know the corporation has big plans of expanding passenger. And going forward, I think it will be the best option for everyone once we expand to different parts of the country. Passenger train is a service. That's what I can say. It is a service to the community. It's we don't focus more on on profitability, but we focus on giving back. Since this is a government organization, we focus on giving back to the community or the citizens.
Sometimes I use the train, sometimes I use the border. But after I reach where whatever the station, I can foot if I don't have money, but I can again whatever I use the border because somehow this distance to working place. Yeah.
So at what time do you wake up to head to the station?
I wake up at around 6. Then I reach up to here, the station at around 7. Yeah.
How much do you spend per day?
I can spend like 4,000 or 3,000 there. Like the train is 1,000, then up to again the working place I can use 1,000. Then coming back because I leave early, so I have to use maybe a border or a taxi. Whereby the taxi they are charging 2,000, the border can charge you like 3,000. Even I can use like 5,000. Advantage of a train, they are charging like 1,000. But sometimes, like some people, they need to work at early, but sometimes the train delays. Yeah, you reach there late. So, like whereby if you have money, you use your border or a taxi. But the train is somehow cheap. It's cheap. Let me say it's cheap.
Well, that's the rehabilitation that is of the Kampala kind of railway route. And definitely, we know that in the next few months, 6 months, it's not going to be in operation. And of course, as the expansion is really undergoing. But of course, there is quite a lot of benefits as we get to see the community, of course, which is largely benefiting from this as a result of its existence. But then, the question is, after the 6 months, what will it be like now when business is back to normal, as people are now going, now using the train, traveling to the different areas. And now here we realize that 45 minutes will be the required time for you to travel. That is from Kampala to Mukono to go and execute the different businesses. And of course, other community will be also benefiting in so many other ways. Well, I'm joined with Joram. We have a discussion regarding this very matter, regarding the Mukono Kampala railway line rehabilitation. So, Joram, have you used the train before?
No, I haven't used the Ugandan train. I've used the SGR.
Okay.
That is the SGR train in Kenya. But I think one of the reasons behind quick developments across the world is the development that comes by public transport, especially. Because transportation works a lot, it saves a lot. And in Uganda, we have a challenge whereby the only chance you have to feel free is when you buy your own vehicle or your own means of transport. But for those who actually use the train, you get to realize that the train saves quite a lot. The reason as to why you look at the timing of the train, if you're, for example, coming in from Mukono to Kampala, the time is not as much as you would take if you're using, let's say, a normal taxi or your own car, because a train only has one route, and it's only one train that uses it. The rails are only available for one train. So at the end of the day, it's not like the road here in, for example, Kampala or the highways in Uganda, where you have thousands of cars, millions of cars, all using the same road. So you definitely expect a lot of traffic jam. So in the long run, you realize that with this particular suspension, by the way, it is actually going to affect some of the people who have been using
the train already.
And for those who actually don't know, you get to realize that there's been lots of people who have been using these trains.
The trains,
especially those who are actually coming in from Namave, then moving to Kampala. I've been actually told that the train starts at 7 in the morning. Then in the evening, it starts moving from the railway station in Kampala here at 5 p.m. So that is the working time of most of the Ugandans, because office time is at 8 p.m. So by 5, when you're done, you rush, pick a train, and it saves you, it's only 1,000 for those who actually come from Kampala to, let's say, Nambole. So when you look at that, 1,000 Ugandan shillings, you're saving a lot of transport costs, because from that distance on a taxi or a coaster, it will take you roughly 2,000 to 3,000. And of course, not only 2,000 to 3,000, but also the traffic jam that is attached to that. So you can easily see that the train is saving a lot from the people.
Even money,
the money,
you save time, you save money at the same time.
But of course, when you look at now the time frame that has been given, 6 months,
6 months
for rehabilitation, the question is, will that be done in the next 6 months?
Now that's a very important question.
Because when you look at the Ugandan kind of situation, just recently we had a discussion about Nelson Mandela National Stadium, and the minister was telling Ugandans that by June 12th, it will be complete. The same minister now returns saying they need more money.
Oh my goodness.
So the question is, how will we be able to at least get this work done? So now this goes back to this issue here, as when you look at this issue, they're saying the government is set to lose over 252 million shillings in course of the infrastructure revamp, because they have to revamp it, they have to continue making these works. But one may still ask, why are we rehabilitating yet the standard gauge railway has failed to be implemented in the country? Because we've always been saying we need the SGR on board, but it does seem like it is going to be another waiting, because you can't set up a standard gauge railway in 6 months. They're only going to do rehabilitation works for the current meter gauge railway.
Wow, very interesting. And definitely still having all these discussions here on SMB as we keep on driving your business and other related topics. At the end of the day, that's matters regarding the standard gauge railway. And of course, for the people out there, what do you really think? Do you think the government will be in position to accomplish this in the next 6 months? But then at the end of the day, within that time, we also try to get to understand how this will affect those people that have already been using, as you've been saying, their interviews, their testimonies regarding this railway. It makes life much more easy and very friendly, and most especially for the people that are so into the business, because money and time are so related. So if you can find a way you can really save time, you can actually accumulate some chunks of money at the end of the day. Well, 25 minutes past 8, and of course at this very time we're going to get into a short commercial break, and when we return, of course, sports in the pipeline and entertainment at the same time, and of course, and more other interesting business discussions. Stick around. Very good morning.
24.